Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 2021 My Team Career Mode, episode number 55 today for the Mexican Grand Prix in Season 3. This is the penultimate episode of the season, so if it wasn't crunch time yet, it very much is now, and coming off the back of an amazing Grand Prix at Japan Suzuka, I am raring to go. If you didn't see that episode, check it out. We had a very, very special one-off livery for the Japanese Grand Prix in a very strikingly different cherry blossom pink, and you know, for once we broke the kind of curse that sometimes is there in Formula 1 with special one-off liveries, and we matched what we did at the Monaco Grand Prix in that one-off livery, and we won the Grand Prix. This time, different kind of story. It wasn't a case of doing anything too clever on the strategy. In actual fact, our strategy decision to go onto the medium tyre almost didn't pan out for us because of the tyre wear, and also in the middle of that race, the engine had an issue. We were in a lean mixture, stuck in it for a while, and looking back on it now, that could have easily actually lost us not only first place, we could have gone down to fourth, so we're actually very lucky that we ended up still maintaining track position. You know, it happened in Sector 1, so admittedly quite difficult to overtake there, even with an engine issue for us, and we also got rewarded then with 150 R&D points as the team looked into it and, you know, solved the problem, whatever. Didn't really, you know, think we'd have that, because most of the time when we have an issue like that occurs for only a little bit, we've hardly got these kind of little bonus R&D packages afterwards, so nice little surprise there. And of course any R&D points are going to be quite nice, so we save up as much as we can for that R&D reset going into Season 4, but we're not even thinking about that next season at all right now. I'm just fully focused on the last two races here, Mexico and Brazil. Two races where in real life, but especially in the game, anything can happen and will happen. Mexico, we've had some absolutely crazy Mexican Grand Prix, not only on this game, but even last year's game, consistently just chaos with crashes, safety cars, and then Brazil, Sao Paulo, you guys know, F1 fans know, Sao Paulo just has a special aura around it, especially if it's a finale. It's a shame, you know, these days in real life that it is not the finale of the season anymore, because I think it has a special place in everyone's, you know, F1 fans' hearts in terms of, you know, that kind of just feeling at Sao Paulo when it's a finale race. But, you know, that's to come. Mexico first. But we've got a bit of time till we get to the Mexican Grand Prix in terms of the activity timeline, so that's more opportunity for these kind of, you know, little events to come up in the, you know, HQ facility. So for this one, we've either got agree or decline, and that was, you know, going to be at the detriment to Mick Schumacher's, I think, awareness that was. So he, you know, declined him to do, I think it was a magazine or whatever that would take away from his focus. So obviously, as I've said, I need a strong Mick Schumacher, because I think honestly he may help us in terms of just having another buffer, another aid like he did at Singapore. Ironically though, wasn't much help to me around Suzuka, but you know what I mean. I think the point still stands. I think a strong Mick Schumacher, like here again, we're gonna, you know, choose to let him go for the gym instead of you know, going for the simulator, I think that was, and so that's going to keep his focus up, because we need him there to help us out, because I think it makes a huge difference. And also remember, the constructors is also another thing we're in the middle of, and we could technically win it today if we score more points than McLaren and Ferrari, but it's so tight right now at the top in terms of performance. I was saying last episode though, it's got even tighter and surprising, because Red Bull have been actually quite strong in the last couple episodes, especially last episode they were very strong with both Alonso and Verstappen up there. I didn't actually, you know, check the R&D chart for a couple of races, because we got to that point where everyone was plateauing, because everyone started to save for the R&D reset. But Red Bull are actually one of the few teams that have continued to develop their car, and they're actually now the quickest on paper. So no surprise why Alonso and Verstappen are right up there last episode, because that was the first race where they were right at the sharp end in terms of the R&D chart. So Red Bull finishing strong, and ironically Fernando Alonso, as he's done maybe in the past in his real life career, you know, choosing the worst time to, you know, leave the team or retire from Formula 1, as his team just get to the quickest on the grid. So that tickled me a little bit, as it was very mimicking of real life in many ways. But you know, now it's kind of nice to see, you know, Alonso in real life, you know, getting back onto the podium, and now in this career mode of ours, Alonso at the sharp end again in the Red Bull though, compared to in real life in the Alpine. But we get on then into Saturday for this second last race of the season. A little bit of rain forecast for later on. Right now though, all dry in Q1, just about getting through into that second part of qualifying as per usual. In terms of who's maybe going to have the pace today, and then generally generally speaking on Sunday, it's going to be hard to call, Looks very, even spread here with Sainz at the top, Alonso, Schumacher, then you've got Lando and P4. So, 4 different cars in the top 4 there in Q1. I think, this track may be quite equalised in terms of pace, in terms of the straight line versus the corners and whatnot. Into Q2, the rain does fall, and I don't know what's with the weather right now. We've had a lot of rain as a whole in this career mode season in particular, but for whatever reason, two weekends in a row now, race weekends, we've had this weird situation where it's raining, yet it's still time for the dry tyres. So I don't know if the game just has something against, me of giving me this kind of situation. Don't know if it happens to you guys very often, but 2 race weekends in a row, we've got this same visual representation of, it looks so damp there at the start of the lap at least, and we're on the soft tyre. I say at the start of the lap though, because by the time we get through to the end of the flying lap, you can see clearly the track surface looks drier now. So it started raining essentially at the end of Q1 into Q2 and is now drying rapidly as we go through Q2's timer. So that first lap, we went early because I was afraid of it raining more and having to get the lap in early, but no, instead we have to go in again and go for a late lap, because as late as we leave it, that's when the track will be at its driest and its quickest. We're actually behind our rival Norris, both of us in the drop zone right now, so this is crucial, so important for us to both get through for each other's respective championship fights. And there you go, Lando makes it through into P5, we're through into P9, so thankfully we're through. Unfortunately, Lando is through as well, but obviously that just means it's a fair game fight in Q3 and then into the race tomorrow, hopefully. But the 2 Red Bulls again looking strong. Russell, great as ever in the Alpine to drag that car up into the top 10 compared to his teammate Ocon, who is knocked out. Schumacher through, but both of us in the kind of bottom half of the top 10 there, so we're going to have to see what the pace is like here into the top 10 shootout. We've set 1 lap already on an old set of soft tyres, so this is our one and only fresh soft tyre run. Purple first sector, looking pretty nice here. We're about 6/10 up into the last sector, a little bit wide though there, and general understeer kicking in a tiny bit then. The car feeling a little bit stiff, and I'm trying to wrestle the car through. 1 second gain now. We lose a bit of time into the last corner. That wasn't my best last sector. Across the line, and I think that was only, P8. That is a really disappointing end to the lap. It was a purple first sector, green in the second, could have gone a little bit quicker. The last corner, I felt like I maybe threw away maybe 2/10, and those 2/10 would have actually got me up to where Mick Schumacher was, at least minimum, on the second row. Instead, it's Fernando Alonso then on pole position. The man leaving the sport is on pole in the second last race, and our main rival Lando Norris in second place alongside him. That's a bit worrying for us, being in P8 there in P2. I mean, it is a long race. It's a race where you can overtake. Schumacher showing that the car has the pace, and I do feel like I know where I lost the time, which was that last sector, the last corner especially. Could have done so much better, and also I was wide into the stadium section, so at least I know I have the pace to be right there where Lando was. So let's hopefully put it all together in the race, make up for this mistake we made in Q3, and not beat ourselves up too much. We've got a long race ahead of us, so let's go to the grid and find out if anyone has maybe some grid penalties also to talk about.
Here we go then, it's time to race in Mexico City, a place which gave Honda their first ever victory back in 1965. American Richie Ginther won from 3rd on the grid. And what are the Honda-powered cars this year? Well, Red Bull have been going strong here in recent seasons, so can they keep that record going today? We're a long way above sea level here in Mexico today, which could pose some cooling issues for the cars as they make their way around this 2.6-mile lap. 17 corners with top speeds in excess of 220 miles per hour, and watch out for potential overtaking into turns 1 and 4. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box. Ant, it's fantastic to have you with us here today, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, from the moment qualifying's over, you start to feel the adrenaline in your body build up and the buzz in your stomach as you anticipate the run down into turn 1. It's all a bit like going into battle, and the unknown situation makes you nervous. Those pre-race nerves are a good thing. The day you don't have them means that you don't care anymore. And of course, you have to make sure that all the procedures are second nature to you, so that they're not taking up too much of your capacity.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Fernando Alonso lines up on pole position, and Lando Norris lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Russell, Sainz, Daniel Ricciardo, the owner driver, Leclerc, Bottas, Gasly and Lewis Hamilton, Verstappen, Stroll, Mick Schumacher, they've taken a grid penalty, and Islands, Matsushita, Lundgaard, Nikita Mazepin and Antonio Giovinazzi, Latifi, Ocon, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, Tsunoda and Guan Yu Zhou. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
So it's another bit of bad luck for Mick Schumacher in terms of the engine department. I don't know what his side of the garage what we're doing really. I guess instead of, taking a big hit like we did at Singapore, they've spread his engine penalties over 2 races, last race and this one, as he's down to P13. Verstappen as well, having to take a grid penalty, so that elevates us up to P6 then. So good news for us, but for Schumacher in the Constructors' Championship, maybe it's going to be harder to wrap that up today. We'll be looking to do so though, because that's one less stress than, of course, going into Brazil, but Lando is still there, P2, unaffected by that, and Fernando Alonso also, I'm sure a lot of people will like to see that, as in his second last race in Formula 1, is on pole position, and probably has a good chance to be on pole next race as well, for his last ever race in this career mode series, funny enough. But for us, P6, 2 less cars to overtake, that's good news for us then, and it's going to be hopefully a good race. Mexico, it's a 2-stop, I love a nice aggressive 2-stop, 2 sets of softs to medium. We've seen before in the past, there is quite a big drop-off on the soft compounder tyre, so we have to be careful about when we make that pit stop and make sure we're clever about it in terms of trying the undercut, maybe even swapping around the soft to medium tyre in that first pit stop and that middle stint. But as we now near to the race start, I'm getting nervous, This is a very important race. This sets up the finale and could be such an important race for our fight versus Lando Norris and our fight versus McLaren and Ferrari. Here we go then to 5 red lights. The second last race of this season is underway as the lights are out, and it's a good start for Lando Norris. He's now side by side with Fernando Alonso. It was a good getaway for us initially, but now in the second phase, because the run down to turn 1 is so long, Ricciardo is alongside us. Bottas on the inside with the big dive bomb. Bottas is spun around at turn 1. It's just like real life, and he's crashed into the Ferrari of Leclerc. Leclerc is out this Grand Prix, and the full course safety car is out. But just like in real life, Bottas round at turn 1. This time it was his own fault, and look at the lead. Lando Norris is into the lead. This is horrendous for us. Thankfully, we avoided Bottas, because we could have easily been caught up in that and, fell victim to the same thing as Leclerc. So I've done well to keep it calm, keep it, measured, and avoid any damage in P7. But Lando Norris, our rival, is in first place now, so that is not great news for us. But this is a replay then. Bottas with a kamikaze dive spins it off the rear end of George Russell. We got so close to actually making race-ending contact, maybe with Ricciardo, because our front wing was very close to his side pod there. But instead, we just about made it, and then also avoided making any contact with Bottas as he just span right in front of us there. If I kept on rolling my car forwards, I would have hit Bottas on the front wing. Instead, Leclerc met that fate. There he is on board. Let's see. We already saw the onboard from Bottas. It was just a really, outlandish dive. And then for Leclerc, actually really bad luck for him, because Bottas almost starts reversing into him, into his path there. And then this is how Norris got the lead of the Grand Prix then, as we watch on this kind of 4-way battle. We're all right on board Russell to watch it. Lando across, switches from left to right, goes side by side, makes some contact. Actually makes some major contact with the race leader. Hang on, let's look at a replay from on board of him then. Ooh, that might be some side pod damage for the McLaren. You never know, because we've got simulation damage on. That could be sideboard damage for him. Alonso will definitely have to pit, and Lando pits. Lando Norris is in the pit lane, along with Fernando Alonso. They both have damage that they need to repair. So maybe his front wing even also got a knock there for the McLaren, because he's in. Because if he just got bargeboard damage, you can't fix that in a pit stop. You can't. So I think Lando must have also got front wing damage whilst making contact with Alonso. So both of them have changed for a front wing. And so under the safety car, it will be Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari that leads the way from Russell, Ricciardo, Stroll. We're up into P5 now. So this race has just been flipped on its head. I thought we were in a really bad position, having Lando in P1, ourselves P7. We're now in P5. He's all the way down in 20th place. This has turned into a really good race for us. And now off the restart, it's all kicking off. George Russell and Ricciardo, either side of Sainz. Russell going for the race lead. Ricciardo trying to get into the mix. Verstappen is trying to attack us somehow into turn 1. Instead, though, we're going to try and tuck up behind Lance Stroll. I don't know where to go. This is literally like F1 chess of where do you make your move? Where is the space to work with? As these guys are going side by side, and Verstappen is also trying to annoy the heck out of me by diving his nose down our inside. Stroll overtaking Ricciardo. Can we get one of these guys? I don't know. It's proving very, very difficult on such a tight circuit. Ricciardo and Stroll having an electric battle there into the second sector. Stroll's a bit slow. We're down the inside. He's got the medium tyre on, so we have the grip advantage right now at this stage of the race with 4 laps gone, 2 under the safety car. But look at that. 3 wide for Schumacher, Hamilton, and Ilott there. And Schumacher round the outside of both of them, maybe. No, Schumacher now battling Hamilton into the stadium section. This is already, what a frantic Grand Prix. Some great battling going on. And Schumacher on the outside of the final corner. Hamilton, though, squeezes him as much as you can to the outside there. It's now a drag race. Mercedes engine versus Mercedes engine. And Hamilton is on the inside line. But can Schumacher do this into turn 1? No DRS. This is just natural racing. And Hamilton just squeezes him out. But that was a fantastic scrap between those two. And meanwhile, at the sharp end, George Russell leads the way in the Alpine. A good overtake off the safety car. Sainz in second in the Ferrari. Ricciardo, then ourselves, Verstappen. But at the moment, not really making too much progress on really getting quite close enough to make any sort of dive bomb or overtake on Ricciardo up into P3. Kind of just stuck right now, trying to build that time and, you know, build the rhythm in the corners to get within 1 second for that DRS, and in a bit of a train with Verstappen there. Meanwhile, Norris is making moves. He's already up into P13, you know. That's actually really good progress to say he was in P20 only 2 laps to go or something like that. So some fantastic overtaking then from him and Alonso as they both overtake respective cars. Alonso up into P10, Norris up into P12. So your 2 previous race leaders now both making their way up the order, picking off the slower cars. Meanwhile, it's still kicking off in this battle between Hamilton, Stroll, Schumacher, and Pierre Gasly here, as Gasly has done Schumacher on the inside. So maybe that's a sign, you know, Schumacher on the soft compound. Maybe the tyre wear is starting to kick in, because Gasly looking quicker in the AlphaTauri there, it must be said, on the mediums. And then Hamilton and Stroll have been swapping positions left, right, and centre. Meanwhile, for us, like I said, trying to close up to Ricciardo, we have done, but annoyingly, Verstappen is also coming with me. You know, we know the Red Bull now is maybe the quickest car on the grid. It got pole position. Verstappen was right up there, but he had a grid penalty, remember, so he's done well to get up into P5 after that grid penalty. So he may be a nuisance to us as we now watch on Sainz making a move on Russell for the race lead. And then look at Verstappen. He's so strangely right up our inside there as he makes a dive. He was literally inches away from our rear wing, and he just stayed there and then waited for the right time to pounce. That was some really weird behavior. I've never seen an AI do that. But Verstappen with the aggressive move, remember, I'm in a championship fight. There is no point trying to defend Verstappen, who we know is going to be aggressive, too aggressively, because I could make contact with him, could break my front wing, especially right now in a position where we're getting a load of points. Lando's down in P10, so I've got to play it smart, and we're going to have opportunities to maybe re-overtake Verstappen, because we've got some good pace in the car. It's just about trying to keep up with Verstappen in the DRS, and then looking to make a re-overtaking pass, you know, onto lap 9 maybe, and we are there. We're within 1 second still of the Red Bull, so let's try and repass him maybe on this next lap. But you know what, Verstappen looks like he might go for a move on Ricciardo as the safety car's out for the second time, and we're going to jump in. Verstappen, Ricciardo did not. This could be very good for us. because we've just jumped in here and we're going to make a pit stop, a free pit stop now onto, I'm going to choose a set of medium tyres because I just want to see how this race pans out now, and I want to go long into the next part of the race. So we're on to a set of mediums. Verstappen and Ricciardo, I guess they were just maybe that inch too late to come into the pit lane, so I got very lucky there with the timing of that. And we're out now in P6 on mediums, free pit stop, and the others didn't opt to come in, and this is why this safety car is out, so maybe not so great news for our team, as Schumacher has a, well, quite embarrassing in a way, a bit of a mistake there in the second sector there, gets caught up on the curb, I think, so a mixture of tyre wear, but then also I know this curb is like a rail. Once you get on the wrong side of it, you just spin, and we saw that last season, if you remember, with Leclerc, I think it was, who span here in Season 2 at that same place. So Schumacher's still in the race, but a front wing damage there, so he's going to be out of it already, having already been out of it due to that grid penalty. So maybe hard today to seal out the constructors. We'll just have to see how we go, but we're in a really good position because we are now restarting this race, and no one ahead of me has pit for their first pit stop, apart from Alonso, who had already pit. So to be fair to Alonso and even Lando, maybe a couple of positions behind us now, those two, that early pit stop, because of the second safety car, may not be too bad for them. As we now look at turn 1, Bottas has a look at me into turn 1 somehow, but ahead of us, it's a really aggressive fight going on between Russell and I think the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz there, battling for the lead. All those guys on worn soft compound attire. Can we make a move on Alonso as we both make a dive, and we have to take avoiding action versus Verstappen? That was just a moment to wince there, because I could just see the contact happening with Verstappen on the right-hand side of the front wing. Verstappen is slow. Those soft tyres are really worn out, and we go around the outside of him. We're going to squeeze him out into the twisting S section, into the second sector, get up into P5, and all those guys on the soft tyre, they're going to come in. Yeah, they are. So I'm still baffled why none of them chose to do a free pit stop. We'll never know, but we're now out into P2. Alonso once again takes the lead of the Grand Prix. Like I said, hasn't actually worked out too badly for him, you know, but for Lando it has. He's down in P7, so Alonso definitely came out better compared to Lando in that kind of first bit of lap action and that early pit stop. But right now we're in P2. We're looking really good, but what is worrying is that man, that Frenchman, Pierre Gasly. He is looking rapid in the AlphaTauri. He's on the soft compound now because he started on mediums and then made a pit stop under the safety car onto soft. So just like ourselves under the second safety car, that was a free pit stop, and now he's looking so quick, and he's not really, you know, in the same race as me right now. We're going to defend against him and try and fight him, but he's obviously trying to use those tyres to good use before they wear out, because once they're worn, they're so useless. But right now, he's so quick. We do defend quite successfully. We re-overtake him with a bit of a switchback from left to right, but he's got a really good overspeed, and he's going right around the outside of us. We're going to try and squeeze him out, but he keeps his nose in. We have to open up the steering wheel to give him the space that he deserves on the inside, and he fully dives it into the first right-hander and then just does us on traction there. I tried to deploy ERS for a little bit, but he just, you know, shot off like a rocket off that second right-hander, and he does shoot off like a rocket on the next lap as well, because onto lap 15, Gasly is the fastest man on track right now in the AlphaTauri. He's going to chase after the big sister Red Bull car right now for the lead of the Grand Prix. On lap 16, he's going to go and overtake the big sister car. Gasly leads the Mexican Grand Prix in the AlphaTauri. What's going on here? And then Lando Norris, he's now come through to overtake Lance Stroll. He is also on the soft compound, and he is now behind us. He's got 1 second between me and him. Clean air, the softer compound attire. This is mad. This has gone from being such a bad race for us to a great race to now again a bit of a wish-wash one, because Lando is right there now and he's on the quickest tyre. So like Gasly, you've got to say he's probably going to have really good pace in the corners right now until that tyre starts to wear out. This is a bit worrying for us right now. Alonso, though, looking quite slow, so he could get the DRS here and overtake him. And in fact, Alonso is going to peel into the pits. So he's making their second pit stop now of the Grand Prix. I wonder when Lando will come in, because he's actually on the softs. Remember, Alonso pit onto the medium. So Lando's actually doing a crazy job to save the tyres, it would seem, off that first pit stop as we now defend against him. But he's going to switch from left to right, try and round the outside. We go for a robust defence, but fair defence in my opinion, and we keep the second place. But for how much longer? I got to hope that surely the pit stop will be coming soon for him, and so maybe we won't get a chance to see. And yes, we won't get a chance to see because onto lap 19, he is in then for his pit stop off the soft compounder tyre. He will strap on the hard tyre. Very surprising. I did not think we were going to see anybody on the hard compound, but Lando and McLaren opting for a very different strategy. Obviously, in a championship fight, you've got to try some new things and be a bit clever. So that's an interesting one because you don't see the hard tyre being used around here very often. So he's going long, couldn't face the tyre wear anymore, whereas Gasly has stretched his soft compound for a little bit longer and may be able to go onto the medium tyre. But because of him coming in now, we lead the Grand Prix on lap 21. We're going to still go a little bit longer though. Lap 24 is when we're going to now say to box in this lap. Bit overcast right now. I was worried there was some rain on the way to give even more of a chaotic ending to this race, but thankfully not. It's going to get drier now in terms of the clouds will open up and it'll become sunnier again. But we're in now on lap 24 onto 25 for a set of, well, I was thinking the soft compound, but I know how badly it wears out. We've got more than 10 laps to go. I don't fancy struggling at the end of this race. I'd rather be on a more consistent tyre. So we're on to a set of mediums, a tyre I've just been on, so I know it's a Schumacher. Schumacher's out. Oh no, what does that mean for the constructors then? What does that mean? Is it impossible now to seal out the constructors? I think it might be. I don't know what the maths is saying. We're now coming out on the mediums then to the end of the Grand Prix, ahead of Stroll, behind Tsunoda, and crucially, behind Lando Norris by a couple of seconds. But we are on the quicker tyre, and we've got less tyre wear to contend with because we're doing less laps. But this is where Schumacher retired then. As I was in for the pit stop, as I was literally changing my tyre compound, his engine or whatever fails, a mechanical failure of some kind, and he retires out this Grand Prix. So I don't know what the maths is because Ricciardo's not scoring points right now. Leclerc is out of the Grand Prix. I don't think Sainz is in the points either anymore. So it's just me v Lando in terms of our team championship battle as well. So I guess we'll find out later. But lap 26, 10 laps to go, and we are in complete flow state right now, in the groove, overtaking Tsunoda with ease up into P4. It's a case of we knew what we were doing. We knew we were going longer in the middle stint to make this stint the aggressive one, even if we're not on the soft compound. It means I can just push harder on the medium. You know, choosing the medium doesn't mean we're going to go slower because I can just lean on the tyre more, take more life out of it because it's a bit more durable than the soft compound. And it means on lap 28 then, 2 laps later, we're within 1 second. The hard tyre, it was a gamble for McLaren. They've tried to go long, but surely we're going to overtake Lando here and at least get up into P3 on the podium. But then the question is, can we catch Fernando Alonso in second place? But here we are. First of all, have to overtake our rival, Lando Norris. DRS open, ERS all the way down this straight. He tries to squeeze us, but in the end, it's a very respectful and easy overtake. He knows the score. He can't defend us with the hard compounder tyre. He's been on those tyres even longer than we have on the medium, so there's just no way he was ever going to be quicker than us on that tyre compound. But 1.8 the gap now. We're chasing after Alonso, but we're meeting some back markers here, which are going to slow our progress down. And it also means that Norris maintains the 1 second to us, and he's just kind of using us to get pulled along with DRS here. And all these back markers, obviously, you have to lift off, be careful. We've got yellow flags as well. All of these factors are proving, making it difficult for me to close up to Alonso. As we see Russell there, the man who was once leading this race for a few laps, he's out this Grand Prix. So, 2 DNFs there for Schumacher. Russell, it's proving to be a difficult one for reliability, it would seem, for some teams and some drivers out there, but not for this man, Pierre Gasly, who still leads the way then here in Mexico in the AlphaTauri. And we're going to look back at a replay because this man, who is maybe going on very likely to win this Grand Prix as we enter the last lap of the Grand Prix. Let's look at a replay and just show you, I didn't realize this until after the race where I looked at the replay. This is how close he was to me, my rear end in this crash. He could have easily, you know, rear-ended me when I stamped on the brake pedal to stop for Bottas. He ended lap 1 and lap 4 in P14. He was P14 at the end of lap 1 under the safety car, and he's here now leading this Grand Prix. Unreal. What a shock winner this is. I don't know what the AlphaTauris are on today, because even Tsunoda is up in a really great solid P5 for them, but it's going to be Pierre Gasly that wins the Mexican Grand Prix. Alonso second, and we are so close. 1 or 2 more laps and we maybe could have got Alonso for P2. Frustrating, but we've beaten Lando again. At least there's a couple of more points in it for us for the Drivers' Championship, but the massive GGs has got to go to Gasly. What a crazy race from him. He was rapid in this race, but for us it's not P2, upsetting, but it's still points over our championship rival Lando Norris.
It's a performance to be proud of from our Mexico City Grand Prix winners. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Well, when you overtake that many people, I'd certainly hope you'd win the race. Their car was really effective in the slipstream here today, and the team will be pleased that they didn't cook the engine, given how long they were spending in the hot air behind other cars. They had a lot of confidence to push their tyres hard as well, especially going into the corners, which allowed for some late braking and some exciting passes.
Our winners are heading to the podium right now. AlphaTauri have done an exceptional job when it comes to forging new talent and seeing them take home the victory. Today is a huge positive for the future of the sport.
Gasly showing once again how good of a driver he can be when everything clicks for him there. P1 in the AlphaTauri, insane. Alonso second place in his second last race of this season and in the entire career series. He retires in season 3, and for us it's the podium and 3 points over Lando Norris, which means going into the final race of this season at Sao Paulo, there are 3 points in it. Lando leads and we are chasing. 3 points in it. That is going to be such an epic finale and a really nerve-wracking one, because Sao Paulo is not my strongest track. It never has been, and anything could happen at Sao Paulo, as it usually does. But one thing that is going to be a little bit less tense is the constructors fight, because despite the DNF from Schumacher, because Ricciardo and the Ferraris did not score well today, we have done enough to win the Constructors' Championship for the 2nd season in a row, back-to-back, Season 2 to Season 3, and it's all thanks to a great partnership with Mick Schumacher. Of course, remember, at one point, strangely enough, we were dominating this season. 5 wins in a row it was for our team in the middle of this one. And so it's GG's. Appreciate what Schumacher's done for the team this season. And we won the Constructors for the 2nd time on F1 2021. But guys, if you did enjoy this crazy penultimate race, then be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And crucially, let me know what you're thinking going into that final race at Sao Paulo. 3 points in it. Till the next one, guys, the finale of this crazy Season 3. Till then, goodbye.